Imagine a night so quiet, the silence itself hums with an unspoken dread. A night where the very air feels heavy, pregnant with a secret that could shatter a nation. This isn't just a story. It's a chilling glimpse into the shadows where power, struggles play out, where heroes emerge from the most unexpected places, and where the fate of a country hangs by a thread. If you're ready to dive into a tale of courage, betrayal, and an unbreakable spirit, then hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and tell us in the comments what you think President Traoré will do next. Now, let the story begin. The night was quiet in Ouagadougou. Too quiet. A stillness had settled over the Burkina capital, a deceptive calm that masked the insidious machinations already in motion. At precisely 2:43 am, deep within the hallowed walls of the presidential palace, a dangerous secret operation was unfolding. This wasn't an internal uprising. Its roots stretched far beyond the country's borders, meticulously planned in the gilded offices of Paris, the strategic chambers of Brussels, and the shadowed halls of Washington. Western intelligence had breached the sanctity of the palace. They hadn't come with the thunder of tanks or the explosive fury of bombs. Their weapons were far more subtle, their methods infinitely more sinister. They came with false names, hidden devices, and deadly, premeditated plans. Among them was Colonel Marc Delroy, no ordinary man. He was a high-level Western spy, a ghost in human form, trained for deep infiltration. Delroy had spent years perfecting his dark craft, orchestrating the toppling of African governments Libya, Mali, Chad. Now, Burkina Faso was next on his grim list. He moved with the practiced ease of a predator, disguised in a blue vest, pretending to be an international elections expert. But in his unassuming suitcase lay the tools of silent warfare, a signal jammer capable of silencing an entire district, a mini drone for unseen surveillance, encrypted phones that spoke only to the shadows, and a vial of potent poison. His orders were chillingly clear: find President Ibrahim Traoré, track his every movement, and if he dared to threaten Western control, neutralize him permanently. Meanwhile, oblivious to the encroaching darkness, the president was resting. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the man beloved by his people, lay asleep in his room. He had just returned from a long, arduous visit to frontline soldiers in the north, his mind filled with the faces of the brave men and women defending their land. He believed he was safe, secure within the very heart of his nation's power. But, unknown to him, the enemy was already inside, burrowing deep into the palace's nervous system. In the communications room, one spy, a lean figure cloaked in shadow, plugged a sleek black device into the palace network. Lights on the device blinked, a rapid, ominous sequence of red then green. One by one, the internal surveillance cameras across the palace went dark, their digital eyes blinded. Elsewhere, a man disguised as a foreign journalist, Musa Diarra, a covert French-speaking agent with eyes that missed nothing, casually opened a fake camera case. Inside, nestled among mock lenses, was a compact radio disruptor. With a single, almost imperceptible press of a button, he jammed all communications in the president's wing. No phones rang, no alarms blared. There was no way out. The trap had been set, meticulously, flawlessly, but deep inside the ID room, a young woman noticed something. Her name was Away, just 24 years old, an intern working the night shift. She had dreams, big dreams, of becoming a cybersecurity expert, of protecting the very systems that were now under attack. On her screen, a cascade of strange messages flickered, main palace cameras disconnected. Unknown devices detected. She blinked, her brow furrowing. "What is this?" she whispered, her voice barely audible in the quiet room. She grabbed her walkie-talkie. "Hello, security? Can you hear me?" Silence. She tried again, her fingers fumbling with the button. Still no answer. Then, suddenly, the lights in the room flickered, a brief, unsettling dance of light and shadow. A shadow moved past her window. Footsteps, heavy ones, getting closer. Her heart stopped. Someone was coming. The heavy footsteps outside Away's IT room grew louder, each thud a hammer blow against her racing heart. She froze behind her desk, her screen still screaming the same terrifying message: unknown device connected, cameras offline, threat detected. This was no small glitch, no routine system error. This was war, a silent, terrifying war unfolding within the very walls of the presidential palace. Her eyes darted around the room, landing on her small bag. Inside, nestled among her meager belongings, was her flash drive, the only backup of the palace's network logs, the digital footprint of the invaders. She snatched it, stuffing it into her pocket, and ran, her breath catching in her throat as she slipped out into the darkened corridor. At that same moment, President Ibrahim Traoré woke with a strange, unsettling feeling, an almost imperceptible shift in the air, a whisper of wrongness that prickled his skin. His instincts, honed by years as a soldier on the front lines, screamed danger. Something was off. He reached for the emergency button near his bed, his thumb pressing down hard. Nothing. No alarm blared, no warning light flashed, no sound echoed back. His face tightened, a grim mask of realization. He stood up quickly, his hand instinctively reaching for the pistol holstered by his bedside. He moved quietly toward the door, his senses on high alert. The hallway outside was silent. Too silent. Solidifying, he called out, his voice a low, urgent whisper. My guard. No answer. Then a faint whisper from behind a pillar. It was Solidifying. One of his most trusted men, slumped against the cold marble, bleeding, clutching his stomach. Mr. President, it's a trap. They're inside. Before he could finish, Sullivan's eyes rolled back, and he fainted, collapsing to the floor. Traoré's blood ran cold. Who? How? The betrayal was already deeper than he could have imagined. Meanwhile, in another part of the palace, Colonel Delroy, the Western spy, spoke into a hidden earpiece, his voice clipped and precise. Phase 1 complete. The palace is blind. The president will be isolated in 15 minutes, but a flicker of unease crossed his face. Something was bothering him. He turned to Musa, the other spy, a sharp question in his eyes. You disabled all backups? Musa nodded slowly, a faint smirk playing on his lips. All except one. There's a girl, an intern. She saw the breach before we cut the feed. Delroy's eyes turned sharp, a predatory glint appearing. Find her now. Before she talks to anyone, Away, clutching her precious flash drive, was now hiding in the storage room behind the palace kitchen. Her hands were shaking, not just from fear, but from the chilling certainty that this wasn't just about computers anymore. This was about life and death, and she held the only evidence that could expose the attackers. She pulled out her phone. The signal was jammed. No internet, no calls. But she remembered one old landline, tucked away in the archive's basement. Taking a deep breath, she hugged her flash drive tight and ran, her footsteps echoing faintly down the hallway, back upstairs. President Traoré entered the secret service room near his office. He opened a locked drawer and pulled out a secured satellite phone unit, a device designed to be unjammable. He dialed a special, encrypted code. It connected him instantly to Captain Dio, commander of the Presidential Guard. Dio, Traoré's voice was low, urgent. We are under attack. Quiet. From the inside. Lock down all exits and find the mole. Dio didn't hesitate. Yes, my president. We move now. But even as they spoke, betrayal was unfolding. Because one of Dio's own men, Lieutenant Keita, was listening in, and Keita was not loyal. He had been secretly meeting with foreign agents for weeks, seduced by promises of immense wealth, a house in Dhaka, even a foreign passport. Now he had a choice, and he made it. He walked away from the control room quietly, his hand sliding under his sleeve to press a small, hidden red button. Boom, the eastern gate of the palace exploded, a deafening roar that shook the very foundations of the ancient building. A side team of masked mercenaries, silent and fast, poured into the compound. Moving with chilling precision toward the president's location, the trap was closing, and the real battle had just begun. Down in the archive's basement, Away reached for the old landline phone. She picked it up, her fingers trembling. Static? She tapped the line, desperate. Nothing. Then, a miracle. Hello, it was the voice of Sergeant Omar, a junior soldier in the palace security, his voice rough with urgency. This is Away from IT, she gasped, her voice barely a whisper. The system is compromised. I have proof. The president is in danger. Omar responded instantly, his tone firm. Hide. I'm coming. To get you. Don't trust anyone. But someone else had already found her. As she turned around, a tall, menacing figure stepped into the room. It was Musa Diarra, the fake journalist, a silenced pistol glinting in his hand. You've seen too much, girl, he snarled, raising the weapon. Away's eyes widened in terror. She dropped the phone. Bang! Darkness. Away dropped to the ground. Musa Diarra stepped closer, gun raised again, ready to finish the job, but then, boom! The door behind him flew open, splintering from its frame. Sergeant Omar stood in the doorway, a pump-action shotgun held firmly in his hands. Before Musa could even turn, Omar fired. Boom! Boom! Musa collapsed, his body falling across the old phone lines, sparking them back to life. Omar rushed to Away's side. She was bleeding, but alive. The bullet had only grazed her arm. "Stay with me, sister," he urged, his voice thick with relief and pain. "You did good. You just saved the country." He gently but firmly grabbed the flash drive from her hand. "We'll get this to the president, no matter what." Meanwhile, inside the palace, President Ibrahim Traoré was running out of time. Gunshots echoed in the hallway, a terrifying symphony of destruction. He could hear mercenaries sweeping the floors room by room, clearing them, searching for him. He held his pistol close, staying low, moving like a shadow. But suddenly, something unexpected happened. His private radio crackled to life. A voice, strained but clear, came through. "Mr. President, this is Captain Dio. Reinforcements from the West Wing have broken in. We're holding the staircase, but there's a bigger problem. The attackers are not alone." Traoré narrowed his eyes. "What do you mean?" "We found proof," Dio continued, his voice heavy. "One of our own betrayed us. Lieutenant Keita." He opened the gates. Traoré clenched his fists, his jaw tight. The betrayal was complete. Even his own soldiers had sold out the country. At that exact moment, in the bustling streets of Ouagadougou, rumors had started to spread like wildfire. Taxi drivers were whispering, "There's fighting near the palace." Tea sellers were telling customers, "Foreign mercenaries entered last night." Mothers were calling their sons who served in the army, their voices laced with fear. "What's happening? Is the president safe?" By 6 o'clock a.m., the streets were filling with people. Not in panic, but in purpose. Men, women, youth on motorcycles. The people were waking up. Some held Burkina flags high, others carried old radios, shouting updates. In a small neighborhood, a group of ex-soldiers gathered around a tea stall. "We fought with Traoré when he took power," one of them declared, his voice ringing with conviction. "If they're trying to kill him now, we cannot sit and watch." They grabbed old weapons, machetes, even cooking gas tanks. "Let's move!" For the country. Back in the palace, Traoré moved swiftly to the emergency exit tunnels beneath the building. These tunnels were built for escape, but today he wasn't running. He had a new plan. He spoke into his secure satellite phone, his voice resonating with a quiet authority. "Get me a direct line to Radio Ouaga FM. I'm going to speak to the nation." In the control van of the national broadcaster, a technician, his hands trembling with adrenaline, connected the line. Then, suddenly, across every station, every market loudspeaker, every mobile radio, the president's voice was heard. "People of Burkina Faso, this is your president, Ibrahim Traoré. Last night, foreign mercenaries entered our palace. They came to destroy what we built. But I am still alive, and I will never run. If you can hear my voice, stand up. Defend your homes. Defend your land. Today is not the day we fall. It is the day we rise." The response was instant, electrifying. All across the capital, horns started to honk, a symphony of defiance. Bikes roared through the streets, carrying messages of resistance. Youths blocked roads, built barricades with whatever they could find. Mothers carried food to the loyal soldiers, their faces etched with determination. Elders told stories of old revolutions, their voices filled with pride. And in one corner of the city, a young man named Fatal, a mechanic, feverishly welded a metal plate onto a pickup truck and mounted a speaker. He drove through the city shouting, "The president is alive. We stand with him." People cheered, some cried, tears of relief and fierce loyalty streaming down their faces. Because now it wasn't just the army fighting, it was the people. Back in the palace, Colonel Delroy, the Western spy, realized something had gone wrong. Very wrong. He turned to the remaining mercenaries, his face a mask of grim frustration. "Pull back. Burn everything. We're leaving." But it was too late. Dozens of pickup trucks, driven by civilians and ex-soldiers, had surrounded the palace. One had a mounted machine gun, another carried cooking gas bombs made by street vendors. They weren't trained soldiers, but they had fire in their hearts. Delroy looked through his binoculars, his eyes wide with disbelief, and whispered, "What? kind of president turns ordinary people into warriors? No one answered because they knew they were losing, and the storm was only beginning. The streets shook with the sound of footsteps, engines, and chants. Long live Trao. This is our land. Burkina Faso will never fall. Thousands of people moved like a wave, heading toward the palace. Old men, young boys, women with babies tied on their backs. They weren't soldiers, but they were ready to die for their country. Inside the palace's great hall, chaos exploded. President Ibrahim Traoré took cover behind a massive marble column, the air thick with dust and the acrid smell of explosives. Grenades detonated around him, shaking the very foundations of the building. He had only 6 bullets left in his pistol, but his resolve was iron. Captain Dio's voice crackled through his radio, urgent. Mr. President, Delroy is in the West Wing. He's planting charges. Traoré stood, his voice calm but strong, cutting through the din. Then that's where I'm going. He ran through fire and smoke, past fallen guards, past broken doors. Each step was heavy, but his purpose was clear. He would not let his country burn. In the West Wing, Delroy had just finished setting the last of his explosives. He looked out the window, a grim satisfaction on his face, watching the surging crowd break through the outer gates. Too late, he whispered, a sneer twisting his lips. But when he turned, Traoré was already there. Gun raised, eyes calm, dust covering his uniform. This is our house, Traoré said, his voice a low rumble, and you are not welcome. Delroy smiled, a chilling, defiant grin. You're too late. He reached for the detonator. Bang! A single shot. Delroy dropped the remote and fell, breathing heavily, a dark stain spreading across his chest. Traoré picked up the device, disarming it. He looked outside. The people were waving flags, singing, crying. He had survived. The immediate battle was won, but the war was not over. Smoke still rose from the presidential palace roof, and the bodies of mercenaries lay strewn across the courtyard. The flag of Burkina Faso waved proudly above the chaos. The foreign operation had failed, but the real war was just beginning. Because now President Ibrahim Traoré knew the bitter truth, the palace was not attacked from the outside. It was betrayed from within. Just hours after the battle, Traoré stood before a small group of loyal commanders. His uniform was torn, his hand bruised, but his voice was steel. We defeated mercenaries today, he said, his gaze sweeping over their faces. But the real enemy still wears our uniform. The traitors are among us, hidden, waiting. Starting tonight, we clean the house. That same night, a nationwide manhunt began. Traoré activated Operation Dugu, meaning clean ground in more. Lists of suspected collaborators were drawn. Every soldier, officer, and advisor with unexplained wealth or suspicious foreign trips was marked. Burkina intelligence opened their files. Phones were tapped, movements were tracked, and for the first time, ordinary citizens became defenders of the nation. In the city of Bobo Dioulasso, a teacher named Mariam Zongo noticed her neighbor's son, Lieutenant Kita, trying to flee at night with 2 bags of cash. She made one call to a local militia. 15 minutes later, he was in chains. My country gave me a job, she told the press, her voice firm, and he sold it for money. He's not my neighbor anymore. He's my enemy. In a small village near Kaya, a group of teenagers hacked into a laptop left behind by fleeing agents, using YouTube tutorials and a Waze viral video as inspiration. They decrypted files showing a list of names, journalists paid to spread lies, activists secretly trained abroad, military officers promised villas in Europe. They handed the data to the local commander. We're not just boys with phones anymore, one of them said. We're warriors of truth. Inside the capital, Captain Dio led midnight raids. In one hidden apartment, they found boxes of foreign cash and a French-made listening device under the floorboards. The suspect, a former communications advisor, tried to lie, but the device spoke louder than words. He was dragged out, barefoot, in shame. Crowds gathered. They didn't cheer. They watched silently, with fire in their eyes. We're done clapping for traitors, an old man whispered. We bury them now. With silence, back at the palace, Away was resting in a wheelchair, her arms still aching, but her spirit burned brighter than ever. She had become a national symbol. Students made drawings of her. Vendors printed her photo on shirts. Women in markets called her the girl who saved the country. Traoré visited her personally. He didn't bring soldiers, just a small radio and 2 cups of tea. You didn't have to fight, he said, his voice soft. But you did. Why? She looked at him and smiled weakly. Because you told us the country is ours, and I believed you. Meanwhile, somewhere in Togo, a group of Western agents watched the news. In silence, one of them asked, "How did it all fail?" Another answered quietly, "Because we attacked a soldier." He paused, then added, "And woke up a nation." But the danger wasn't over yet. From across the border, whispers began. Disgraced warlords, angry ex-generals, corrupt businessmen in exile, they were watching Traoré's moves, and they were planning something darker, revenge. One evening, as the sun set over Ouagadougou, Traoré stood alone on the palace balcony. His eyes scanned the horizon. Behind him, his people were rising, cleaning their country block by block. But in the distance, new shadows were moving. 2 weeks had passed. Burkina Faso was healing, but not resting. Schools reopened, radios played patriotic songs, but the smell of smoke still hung in the air. The wounds of betrayal were fresh, and the enemies were not done. Across the border, in a quiet compound in northern Ivory Coast, a dark meeting was taking place. 5 men sat around a table, ex-generals, ex-presidents, war profiteers, and one Western handler. On the table, a map of Burkina Faso lay spread out, with red pins marking the north, east, and capital. The coup failed, one said bitterly, but chaos is always an option. We don't need to kill him, said another, just break the country again. Let the people lose hope. Their plan was simple: fund terror groups in the north, sabotage food supply chains, fake protests in cities, spread videos of fake executions, starve them, scare them, make them beg for foreign help again. They smiled, a cruel, knowing smile. But they didn't know the people were ready. In Ouagadougou, President Ibrahim Traoré held a secret council with youth leaders, soldiers, farmers, and even motorbike riders. The enemy is planning to break us again, he said, his voice firm. But this time, we don't fight back as a government. We fight back as a nation. He rolled out a new plan, the People's Shield. Villages would build their own defense teams. Farmers would coordinate food distribution networks. ID students would monitor online disinformation. Motorbike taxis would serve as rapid messengers. For the first time in modern Africa, a head of state was handing defense to the people. In the town of Dori, northern Burkina Faso, a terrorist cell tried to seize a village. But what they found shocked them. Old women with whistles raised the alarm. Children blocked roads with metal drums. Youth circled the attackers on motorbikes, throwing rocks and molotovs. Within hours, local hunters, armed with Dane guns and bows, surrounded the terrorists. They didn't wait for the army. They defended themselves. In the capital, a fake protest was staged, complete with paid actors, foreign cameramen, and staged looting. But before the footage could reach international media, Away, now leading the People's Digital Guard, exposed the entire setup live online. Her post, "This isn't a protest. This is theatre, funded from abroad," it was shared 1 million times. In 2 hours, the operation failed, but then the final blow came. One morning, Traoré's personal aide walked into his office trembling. "Mr. President, there's a recording you must hear." It was a secret audio clip smuggled out of Togo. A Western agent was speaking with a rebel commander, "Kill Ibrahim. Use poison if needed. If you fail, burn the grain reserves." The plan was real. The threat was close. Traoré looked out the window. "If I die, they'll flood in. But if I survive, they'll never come again." That evening, he held a surprise national address. It wasn't from the palace. It was live, standing in a crowded marketplace in Bobo Dioulasso. No bulletproof glass, no guards, just him, a MIC, and his people. "I know they want me dead," he said, his voice echoing across the square, "but they've already failed. Because I am not the power of this country, you are. If I fall, another will rise. If one city burns, 10 will rise from the ashes. You didn't choose me for fear. You chose me because I fear nothing for your future. Let the enemies come again. This time, they will drown in the river of our unity." Across Africa, people watched in silence. In Niger, in Mali, in Congo, even in the streets of Soweto, something changed that night. Ibrahim Traoré was no longer just the president of Burkina Faso. He became a symbol of resistance, of youth power, of African dignity. The final attempt on his life came quietly through a poison drink offered by a visiting official. But the drink never reached him. Sergeant Omar, now head of presidential security, stopped the cup with one hand. "Not today," he said. "Not ever. Today, the story of that night lives in songs, in street murals, and in every child learning what it means to love your land." It wasn't just one man who saved a nation. It was a teacher, a girl with a flash drive, a mechanic, a soldier, a president, and millions of ordinary people who chose not to be afraid. This was not just a thriller. It was a warning and a hope. Because when people rise together, no foreign power, no mercenary, no traitor can stand against them. Burkina Faso didn't just survive. It became unbreakable, and that, dear friends, is the incredible story of how a nation stood up against the shadows. What was your favorite moment? Did Away's bravery inspire you, or was it the unity of the people that moved you most? Let us know in the comments below. If you were gripped by this tale, please give this video a big thumbs up, share it with your friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories that need to be told. Until next time, stay strong, and remember the power of unity.